You can't do a Superman movie without it seeming to be woke.
I know directors have intentions behind their work. I think stories are meant to do things. So, is Superman woke?
Hello, everybody, and welcome to People Fuss. My name is Doug Daniels.
And I am Carrie Prince.
And we are here to discuss the fuss about people, talking about disconnections and connections that we all experience in life, love, and leadership.
We're going to be getting into a hit movie that we both saw recently. You might have heard of it. It's a little thing called Superman.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there was a lot of buzz about Superman politically. Not a big surprise because everything seems to go that way lately.
Yep.
And I actually didn't know that much about the movie before I went into it, just that it had a little bit of buzz calling it woke Superman from the political right. So I didn't really pay attention to that, but when I went into it, I suddenly started having some like deeper thinking about it all. So we're actually going to see if we think that quote criticism is valid and what we think about it. We're going to go through sort of the history of that of comic books in that format, and then also talk about how we think it is relating or not to politics today, and kind of what that does to people and who it influences.
Yeah,
just a light little topic for the day.
Is it woke, and if so, is it persuasively woke?
Yeah, we had some very great consultants on.
Yes, we did.
Yes. So I have a brother-in-law that actually works Comic-Con and is a super fan of Superman. He knows pretty much like probably more than anyone else I know about it, which says a lot because we have a good nerd group.
And then my best friend is also a giant nerd, and I asked his opinion about it, and we got a pretty juicy quote. And he's also very big on all of the comic books, Captain America in particular, but he's also a huge Superman fan.
And then, as you can see, we have a little stack of books here that Douglas checked out from the library. Being a librarian, he was very excited to pull some research that anybody could do for something like this. So,
yeah.
Let's just get right into it. We went and saw Superman, and as I was watching it, I thought, this does feel very political to me.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think it was like the next day I went to you and I said, Douglas, did you feel Superman was kind of political? And your immediate response was no.
Yes.
And then you unpacked it for me. So please enlighten us, unpack it. Why did you say no at first?
Well, I sort of interpreted your question to be, echoing the narrative that we've been hearing from the right side of the political spectrum, which is that it's woke politics, that Superman is woke, it's moved left, it's just kind of more Hollywood propaganda. And so that's kind of what I was reacting to. I was saying, no, this is not woke, this is not propaganda, this is what Superman is. This is just a Superman movie. You can't do a Superman movie without it seeming to be woke or without it being open to criticism from the right. Because, again, wokeness as a pejorative is a relatively new term, right? So I guess to answer your question more literally, yes, it was political. But, again, I was coming at this from the criticism side that the movie is facing, and I was kind of dismissing that criticism as ahistorical in the first place, meaning it doesn't take into account the history of Superman, the stories that Superman has had in the past, and comic books generally. Mm-hmm. And also, it wasn't even that progressive. Like he's always been an immigrant, and it wasn't. I don't know. It's just like it was just a normal Superman story.
You know what I loved though is that you very clearly highlighted like he is an alien, and that whole like illegal alien versus undocumented immigrant sort of thing. Now that instead, what's funny is like we're not calling him an alien necessarily, even though he is. We keep saying like, oh, he's an immigrant, which those two words are so loaded. Yeah,
and it's kind of dumb to call him an immigrant, right? I mean, if we actually had an intergalactic new species from outer space come and live among us. Immigrant? Well,
in Star Wars world, it might be more like if there were lots of planets and everybody's like emigrating from planet to planet.
Sure.
But
even those, but then it's like people from one planet to another. I don't know. It just seems like the term immigrant, when we're talking about like an actual alien, just seems to be a weak term for an interstellar migration, I guess, or whatever.
He's human. I mean, he's human enough to have sex with humans.
How do you know?
You know that they
know?
You know they do. He just has
This
to be
is the
careful.
first I'm hearing of this, you guys.
We all know they do. We all know they do.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of strange, right? That the aliens look like humans. In fact, that's always kind of been strange to me, like in Star Trek and Star Wars. It's almost like they had to have humans inside the suits of aliens to make them look real. They always seem to be bipedal and human-sized.
Yeah. That sort of like stretch aside, which there are so many stretches about this movie, by the way, it is very like flashbang. There's lots of powers going on. There's lots of worlds. There's lots of like universe ripping. I mean, it's a lot. Spoiler alert. It's a lot. But I felt that the themes that the director, James Gunn, was going for were pretty crystal clear. He talks about it being first and foremost about kindness, which I thought came through quite a bit in the monologues and the actual dialogue. And what Superman has kind of always been about, which is like saving people, which is, I guess,
truth
kind.
And
I guess
justice.
It's kind, yeah. But I felt that there were parallels, very purposeful parallels in some of the bigger storylines to do with oppressed people and bigger corporate greed sort of things, and even technology being more important than humanity, and like bigger concepts we're really grappling with now. And
you even saw in one of the subplots, or I guess part of the main plot, parallels to the Israel-Palestine conflict.
Yeah, and I thought that the bad guy had some. I mean, and this is a little bit more fresh. Because,
one of the bad guys.
Yeah, the obviously the movie was made a couple years ago, but a lot of times they can kind of update and get inspired too as things are filming. I mean, that's been my experience. I've worked on, production sets for 10 years, so. I do think that there was a little bit of a I can't imagine he wasn't thinking just a little bit about like a Bibi Netanyahu, just a little bit.
I mean, I get that,
bit.
but given the time that it was being, well, I guess, yeah, because October 7th, 2022, so 2 years ago would have been around that time.
Yeah.
But it also could have been evoking Russia and Ukraine in that sense too. But,
yeah, maybe.
I mean, but to my earlier point, during World War II, during the Cold War, Superman and some of these American, quote unquote, comic book heroes were fighting the fight against whatever the American enemy was at that time,
Yeah.
So I think, it's just, to me, I see more similarities between like, the Cold War stories from that time. But I mean, I take your point, and I do think that there are parallels to be had for the modern conflicts. When I go to a comic book movie, I kind of turn my brain off,
Yeah. Well, the other thing is, of course, that we hear this word woke thrown around as a pejorative, basically just for like the loony left, which I guess both of us sort of fall into that broad category if someone were to like look at our lives and what we believe in. But also what's sort of disturbing is that the word woke started in the Black community as something that was just about being aware of racial prejudice and discrimination, and like particularly systemic injustice, and like it started in a community that was feeling it and needed it to be more present, and so now it just applies to like a whole half of the country all the time, and it's like paired with these words, and that change is really sad, because honestly one of the first times I heard the word woke that I was really into it was in music, and I was like, that's a sexy word, and that kind of is what got me interested in learning more about it at that time. And I'm kind of sad that it's now like a pejorative on the right to say woke Superman. There's like so much there that is kind of weird.
It's just a quick and easy way to dismiss somebody or something. But you know what it made me think of is the term social justice warrior. That used to be in our collective lexicon, but that hasn't been used in a while. And I think it went through the same sort of transition. It started as, a compliment or a badge of honor, and then was quickly appropriated by the right.
You know what it is now?
What it?
Keyboard warrior.
Keyboard warrior, yes. I mean, we've all met those.
And been one, I think. I've been one.
I am a keyboard messiah. Yes, I type furiously and with much rigor sometimes and strong opinion. Yes, it's true.
Yeah. I do things sometimes where I get real hot on something and then I like type out a whole thing that right before I'm going to post it, I like look at it again and I'm like, no,
fuck it.
Don't do that.
I've done that.
Take it back.
I've done that too.
But you've gone through the exercise.
Yeah, it's cathartic still.
Yeah.
But like sometimes I'm doing that and I'm getting to the end of the comment and I feel my blood pressure. I feel my heart rate
Same.
going up, right? And then I'm getting to the end and I'm like, do I want a response that's going to give me this feeling again, you know? Am I going to change anybody's mind on Reddit? Absolutely not. Delete.
Yeah.
Delete. Discard comment. Are you sure? Yes, I'm fucking sure. Jesus.
Yeah, we've all done that a little bit, but this movie, one thing that I think is important is that I don't always discuss like crap that's in the news or on TikTok if I don't think that it has influencer power. This is one of the top movies making millions and millions of dollars for people, and people pay to see it, and it's like a huge part of our story lexicon right now. So I think it actually is quite influential and powerful. And I think stories are meant to do things. Like, I know directors have intentions behind their work, and people that participate in things feel the intention of that work. And when you go and watch things, especially things that are meant for kids to adults, all the things that you watch and are surrounded with growing up are heavy influences on how you are building empathy. And Superman is a huge empathy builder. He's supposed to be. And I just want to give a quote from my brother-in-law, Scott Safranca, who is the Superman superfan, who works Comic-Con, knows a ton about this stuff, right? Like, I would say he is a, unofficial expert. This is what he had to say when I asked him for a quote on this topic. Comics have always given us a snapshot view of politics and drive important issues. From Captain America punching Hitler while the U.S. navigated entry into World War II to the first Superman, where he raced to the governor's mansion to save a falsely condemned man, and finished with him intimidating a corrupt lobbyist. Wonder Woman takes a look at women's equality, while X-Men is meant to look at discrimination and explore themes of racism, prejudice, and social inequality. This theme is repeated over and over in The Dark Knight Returns, Iron Man, Green Lantern, and the list goes on. So, is Superman woke? No. Superman is exactly who he has always been. He is an immigrant. He eventually becomes a U.S. citizen. He originally stood for, quote, truth and justice, with the American way not being added till later. Superman is meant as a representative of the best of humanity. Our power is not what makes us strong or right or better. Our actions and how we help each other and those different from us does. Superman has not changed. He is the same as he has always been. Sounds like you, Doug. He seeks to protect those who need protection and empower those who feel they have none. What has changed is the reader of the comic.
Ooh,
they have grown, deep. I know, they have grown, learned, and had ideals or leanings changed. To them, the comics of old don't fit where they are now. And in that case, it must mean that it is, quote, woke.
Yeah. And that's a very much more articulate and eloquent way of making the point that I was trying to make, that Superman is just Superman. Woke is an anachronistic term to use, because Superman's been doing the same thing, same kind of thing, since the first comic, 1938.
1930s. I mean, think about that. 38. We're right about to get into World War II. Historically, that is an insane time to think about these stories like coming in.
Think about the Great Depression. That was still going on.
Yeah.
The New Deal was being touted as the way of helping the people out of the depression that they were in, the economic depression that they were in. So Douglas and I were just, I mean, it just seemed crazy to us that you could think about something like comics,
which are always about helping people and saving people. I mean, that is really part of the culture of it. And so many of these comics are about that you decided to just gently, we started to like look up some fun facts here and there, like pink kryptonite and stuff like that. And then you got a little bit deeper. So
yeah. So, I mean, of all the things that you could have called woke, pink kryptonite, but I think that when I looked it up, it was back in 2003. So again, that term didn't really exist. But pink kryptonite, for those of you who don't know, turned Superman gay.
But what was it supposed to do? It makes you more effeminate?
Yeah, it makes you more effeminate.
Makes a man more effeminate?
Yeah, yes. Well, I guess I don't know. I didn't look that.
What would it do to Supergirl?
I don't know.
Maybe she becomes a drag queen?
Maybe. Are drag queens more effeminate than women?
I think so sometimes.
Sometimes.
Sassier.
Sassier, that's for sure. So sassiness is part of being effeminate.
I don't know what I'm saying anymore. We don't know. But there have always been things too in these storylines that have really been politically charged on purpose. That is what they are meant to do, and you have some great examples of.
Yeah. So one of the things that I wanted to do with these books is, first of all, get a sense of what has been written about comic books, and when I say written, I mean by those nerds and people who call comics literature, which I do think it is at this point in time. It's been almost 100 years body of work. And actually, just a quick aside, I learned this as I was skimming some of these books. The DC universe, where Superman inhabits, has been kind of reset multiple times throughout the years. The Marvel universe, however, is one long continuum. So when Marvel Comics was first published, not too long after DC came around, but those comic books have been in the same continuum, the same universe, which I think is kind of cool, actually. So anyway, my research into Superman in particular led me to conclude that he is indeed a woke pansy.
Superman is woke as fuck, and he always has been.
Fucking woke.
He's so fucking woke.
All right, so Action Comics numbers 1 through 8 took place, or were published rather, from the years 1938 to 1939. Superman is debuted as a, quote, champion of the oppressed who, end quote, who fights slumlords, wife beaters, arms dealers, and corrupt officials. That's pretty fucking woke. Notably, he forces a mine owner to experience unsafe conditions firsthand and stops the wrongful execution of a poor man.
And that's what Scott was talking about, too, I think.
Yeah, and to that end, I have a quote from one of the more interesting titles that I found, Theology and the DC Universe. And the quote is, "There is a visceral loathing of social injustice in these early stories. Siegel and Schuster's early Superman, the creators of Superman, does not fight aliens or robots. He stops a man from beating his wife, and he forces a corrupt mine owner to adopt new safety policies." That's so fucking woke, man.
It's so like the Democrats.
I mean, what are we talking about, okay? And then, get this. It gets better. It gets better, okay? Superman exposes the corporate pollution of Metropolis's river. So what? Superman fights a villain trying to capitalize on environmental degradation. Chinese hoax. There's no such thing. Environmental
the
justice.
Environment?
Woke.
Gross.
Woke. Woke. Woke, 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 woke. And then, just for fun, I wanted to look at some other comics.
Yeah, let's do it.
Wonder Woman, by definition, in the 1940s, as a female protagonist and a female superhero, I mean, there's plenty of criticisms to be made about how she was physically portrayed and all of that, but she was actually created by a psychologist, the guy who invented the lie detector machine. Why can't I think of the name?
Oh, Polygraph?
Polygraph, thank you. A guy named William Moulton Marston. Wonder Woman embodied radical female empowerment. Oh, my God. Radical female empowerment, a utopia of female leadership, pacifism, and anti-patriarchal ideas.
Pacifism and anti-patriarchal ideas?
So woke. So woke. Feminism? Woke. Woke. Captain America. Scott mentioned this. He also mentioned Wonder Woman, of course. Captain America punched Hitler in the face before the United States entered the war. So that was a very political statement at the time. After the United States enters the war, till now, I would say, depicting somebody punching Hitler in the face, not that controversial. But it could have been a little bit controversial at the time because we hadn't entered the war yet. We didn't know what was going on in Europe. There was still a lot of isolationist feelings and anti-war feelings in the United States until we were attacked. So Captain punching Adolf Hitler, also kind of woke. And the other thing about Captain America that my friend also touched on is that Captain America has always been crossing the segregation line. So he's always been pro-GI with a particular focus on black GIs and expressing solidarity across racial lines. Again, fucking woke. And then, of course, the X-Men, the mutants, and the discrimination that they face at the time that they were introduced in the Silver Age of comics in the 60s. That would have been the parallels to the civil rights movement, right? So segregation, keep mutants away from the rest of the population. The mutants are dangerous. Mutants are going to kill us, blah, blah, blah.
And Star Trek had sort of a similar thing. I'm bringing up Star Trek because I was schooled on Star Trek. I thought it was quite boring when I was a kid, and my mom would have it on sometimes in the kitchen. And I wasn't super into sci-fi, and I found the acting a little bit cheesy. But then I got schooled on it, and somebody was like, do you realize all the things they did on screen first?
Yeah.
And how they represented
first
people?
Interracial kiss.
Yeah, and just what kinds of things they did and represented, and they were making metaphors and parallels, and they were kind of allowed to because, again, it's a fake universe with different species and things like that. But I think of that too and how early that happened.
And I'm glad you brought it up because that's actually a decent segue to a quote from my friend Trevor, who he said a lot of things that really helped guide my research, but the comment that stood out to both of us is he's a funny guy. And one of the first comments or texts he sent me after I asked him about Superman and is Superman woke? Are comics political? He said, no, never. Historically, art has never been politically charged, have symbolism, or stood for the outcast of society. Comics have always been by and for the jocks and strongest of society. It's only recently that they started pandering to nerds. So I think that sums it up. He's being very sarcastic there for those of you who couldn't tell, but kind of saying the same thing that Scott was saying. And he did go on to kind of give me a lot of good, concrete information after that joke text. But he's basically saying the exact same thing that Scott is saying. And kind of what you said about Star Trek. Art is rooted in politics. Good art is rooted in politics.
Okay, so I think this is the perfect way for me to get into what I'm talking about with influence, and especially influence with younger people, because we're in a bit of a crisis right now, especially with young men really falling into this more alt-right funnel, and they're finding mentors and people that are a lot more about bullying and fear and hatred, and things have been taken from you, and people, it's just a really different sort of world to get caught up in. And this is teenage, this starts really young. These are teenage boys that like pretty much can't stop themselves from seeing the YouTube algorithm that keeps feeding them a really similar thing. And for me, when I think about comics and the people that I know that are most passionate about them are men, and they've been reading them for a really long time. And I can't help but think these characters shaped them. Like when I talk about my brother-in-law, Scott, like he's a teacher now. He was a Phoenix cop for a while, and he was in the Coast Guard for years before that. That's when we first met him. He's in the Coast Guard. I think he is a really excellent person and like tries really hard to be a good person. And I can't help but think that someone who looks up to a character like Superman, that there's some impact of storytelling and who we see as our empathy builders, and, the people that are trying to tell us to do the right thing and what that right thing is.
I need a hero.
I need a hero. Yeah, exactly. So when I think about this movie, Superman, and young people seeing it, my hope is that there is empathy building and influence there, even if someone's telling them, oh, it's woke Superman, don't go see it. What do you think?
Yeah, so we were kind of discussing this a little bit, and I came to the conclusion that it's not going to change any adult minds, really. You know, nobody's going to go see this Superman movie and think, oh my God, you know, Stephen Miller, I don't think that guy has a good immigration policy. You know, I don't think that's going to happen. But I do think a child whose parents might be saying bad things about the movie because it seems leftist or woke or propaganda or whatever, I think a kid that goes and sees that movie anyway might come away thinking, well, that didn't seem so bad. Like, I feel like that Superman represents good things. So maybe being leftist isn't so bad, you know? Maybe this whole woke thing isn't evil after all.
Yeah. There's some images in the movie, which again, it's a spoiler. Come back if you need to watch it and then come back to this or whatever. But there's images that are really striking that are so similar to things that are happening now, where we're really trying to get people to care about things like child starvation and like a whole people that is literally like wasting away kind of for no reason because of political conflict and war and religious ideology, frankly. Those images for me were very impactful because I don't think it's, I think it's silly for, you know, Superman, for us to rely on something like a Superman. But the hope is that collectively we all feel Superman in our hearts and then vote for people that work to, you know what I mean? Like there's a much longer pathway in our government to get there. But
who in Congress embodies Superman the most for you right now?
Well, in terms of that conflict?
No, just in general. Talking about,
which we're talking about Israel, Palestine, obviously.
No. Yeah, setting. I mean, or not. Don't set that aside. But I'm just saying, like, Superman as an ideal, saying that we want politicians like Superman who stand for truth and justice.
Yeah.
Who do you is most Superman like these days?
Do you have someone in mind for yourself?
No, I really don't. I need to do enough like research because I don't know.
Do you know, I don't think that I would ever feel comfortable putting that all on one person, but I do think there's a group of people, and it should always be a group of people with checks and balances. My God. It should always be a group of people that you know that they all have different strengths. So if you look at someone like Bernie Sanders, which, you know, he has a lot of popularity, I think, across the spectrum in different ways. And there's a reason for that. Like the things that he stands for, he's been very consistent. He is relentless in the things that he cares about.
He would absolutely punch a corrupt mine owner in the face and make them have better safety policies.
He definitely has. He has consistency with that kind of stuff.
That's who I was kind of leaning towards too. But I think that again, I think it's good for children, and it's good for metaphor, but it's too black and white of an example to expect a human being to be.
Well, and
Superman.
Part of the problem, I think, with Trump is that people do see him as the end-all, be-all, one-person thing.
Yeah.
This god among politicians, which, you know, that's a whole different thing. But putting the saving of a whole big, complicated thing on one person,
especially an 80-year-old.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Sorry, I just got like the South Park visage in my mind for a second. I just was like grossed out for 1 second.
I'm Donald Trump and I approve this message.
But the idea that it's one person is probably silly. But the wonderful thing about comics is that we know it's make believe. We know it's make believe. If we certainly have had political dramas where maybe one person is supposed to be like a really good president, and maybe a lot of people that were on Barack Obama's side still feel that way about him. But I don't think it's good to place savior status on one person.
I would say people that think Obama is infallible or like some sort of savior figure are just as misguided as people that think Trump is a savior figure. I mean, that's just, we don't have those in the real world.
Yeah, and the system is too complicated. There's a reason why, again, I keep talking about groups of people, but
that actually reminds me of an interesting bit of my research, which was the whole Superman doesn't kill idea. And it actually brought up I think it was Zack Snyder's previous Superman movie where Superman actually kills General Zod. Like he's got him in a headlock. Sorry if you haven't seen this. And Zod is using his laser beams from his eyes to attack a family. He's about to kill a family. And so Superman, in the movies, you're supposed to feel as though Superman is forced to kill Zod. And that caused a bit of a controversy because Superman is supposed to never kill. There's a no-kill ethos that is surrounding Superman, which I think is really interesting, especially when you force a sort of dilemma like that. But historically speaking, Superman has killed people, actually. In the early comics, there's nothing ever explicit, like where he, like, shoots somebody in the face or something. But, like, he punches people into the sky and you can see them falling in the distance.
Yeah.
It's presumed that they didn't survive that. There was another one I read about where he left a villain in a gas chamber, and he says something as he flies away, he's like, well, one less vulture in the world, So again, it comes from both sides, this sort of misreading of history or appropriation of characters that are kind of misappropriations. Superman has not always been a no-kill kind of guy. It's fine if that's what he evolved into. But a lot of criticism that Zack Snyder was getting from the nerds, or some of the nerds, were that they were claiming that Superman was a no-kill superhero, which is unique among superheroes.
So we've been talking about sort of like nerd culture and the nerd world and nerd universe, and both of us have different things about us that are nerdy. I wouldn't say that I am nearly as deep into nerd culture, especially like the Reddit communities, which you're a lot more familiar with. So I have questions for you.
Ooh, okay.
Do you feel in general that like the nerd community, like all the people that went down to Comic-Con, what do you think the political spread is that you see online? And I wonder even if I could look up right now, like what the political spread is of people that go to Comic-Con.
I would say hyper liberal.
And why do you think that is?
For the reasons that we were discussing, that comics have always had themes of the oppressed, of the marginalized, of people who feel like they are loners, and the act of, or just the fact of being a comic book fan puts you in a category of person that society has shaped to be a nerd, an outcast, a loner, that sort of thing.
Do you think there's overlap with like the incel world?
I don't think so. I mean, there might be. Okay, so because like comic books back in the day were relatively limited, right? There's like Superman and then there's Batman, but there weren't that many. But nowadays,
Lots of content.
And especially if you expand that to be like graphic novels and manga and stuff like that coming from Japan, I mean, I'm sure that there's some crazy misogynistic stuff out there that has a fan base. But I would say, as a generalization, the comic book community, the Comic-Con community, if we can call it that, is very progressive, hyper-liberal, I would say.
Yeah. We went to probably one of the most progressive cons you can go to. We went to Indigicon in San Diego recently.
Right. We did.
It was really cool, actually. Some of the comics they're making, I think, are trying to do something really tough, which is to like tell their history in a way that's a little bit more honest. We were just chatting with someone today who knows a lot, and she was remarking about how sad it is about rewriting history in ways that are really truly really horrible, talking about slaves coming here for work and
looking for work.
Yeah, instead of, coming on ships. I mean, some of the things that are happening, especially in places like Texas and Florida, like little kids aren't getting the stories where they're going to build empathy and feel something for people. Like, this was another question I had for you, but we had some similar childhood background as far as like being raised kind of religious when we were young. Were you told stories and were you asked to feel empathy for kids that were like starving in Somalia and
through the eyes of an angel?
Well, that came later, Sarah McLachlan.
Okay.
Also, I think that was for pets.
Was it?
Yeah, sorry.
Okay. My bad. Starving
I
children.
hope everyone's laughing at you right now because that was really funny.
You're asking me a tough question. Did my parents ever force
No, not your
me?
parents. Not your parents.
Oh.
No, not necessarily your
You're
parents.
off the hook, Mom.
Yeah, totally. No, I don't remember it being my parents. I remember it being part of the like media and education and all the things that I was aware that there were children starving in the world. I was aware that other kids didn't have it as good as me. I was aware that slaves were stacked on boats. I was aware that we killed indigenous people when we came here. Like, I learned those things when I was young, and they horrified me.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely remember learning those things too, and I remember in particular the story of, in church anyway, going back to that, is the story of the Good Samaritan, which I find as interesting evidence that morality existed outside of Christianity.
Yeah.
By definition.
Yeah.
So anyway, not to get into that topic, but no, the Good Samaritan was an impactful story for me. I think because living in Los Angeles, I mean, it's bad now, but there's always been homeless people in big cities in America. Yeah. And I've had good interactions with them and bad interactions with them. The interaction being me trying to give them food. I'm not a big fan of giving money, but I am a fan of giving food or some sort of sustenance, I guess, for lack of a better word. And I've had positive experiences and bad experiences, but I think that's one of the reasons why the Good Samaritan stuck out to me. But actually, as a fan of history, that's one of the things that attracts me to it, is that history is, I think, defined by the extremes of human experience. History is written in extremes, kind of.
Yeah, that feels right. So. And if you were to pinpoint a few heroes that you had when you were young, from things you watched or read or whatever, who do you remember being your biggest heroes that you read about?
Oh my God, Martin the Warrior.
Okay, tell me more.
A series of books called the Redwall. It's the eponymous first book called Redwall, but the series I think is also called Redwall, by a guy named Brian Jakes, and it's sort of, I want to say it's like Lord of the Rings light, in the sense that it's like a preteen series. I think is that.
I read it.
Yeah, it's safe to say it's preteen. So there's like fighting and there's good and evil, but they're all forest creatures. So Martin the Warrior is a mouse, and Salamandastron is a city ruled by a badger. I think.
My gosh, your memory.
And then the evil people, of course, are rats and stoats and weasels. There's an owl. Holy shit, the owl is scary, because, I mean, Martin's a mouse. So
yeah.
But,
the main character who's a warrior is a little mouse, which is a great metaphor. And this is what I was getting at, is that like my heroes were also about, a lot of them were female. Like Rainbow Brite is controversial now. I get it. There's like some people that say she's like I was just reading this recently, that Rainbow Brite, there's like some metaphors about colonialist takeover and stuff. Frankly, I didn't get that as a young blonde girl who looked like her. I wasn't thinking go take over someone's land. I felt like she was trying to spread joy and light in the world, and she rode a white horse on a rainbow everywhere. But like she seemed to me as a child to have very good intentions, and since I looked like her, which helps, and I wanted more of that for other people. That's a funny example, but like Care Bears healing everyone by like shooting out their tummies, good vibes. Captain Planet, which I didn't really watch, but I understood.
By our powers combined.
Yeah, I really like, and I would read series usually with female heroines. Like I remember one was about dragons, and she was young and going to save the world or whatever. But like we look up to these hero figures, and it matters so much that he was a mouse. This is my point. It matters so much that he was a mouse, because of what that metaphor says to a young boy. In this case, I read him too. So a young boy or girl reading it and thinking like, this small mouse is so powerful and can overcome these larger, scarier powers.
I didn't obviously read Redwall through a feminist lens, so I'm trying to think of female characters and how they were portrayed. One thing that I really remember about this series was the way that Brian Jakes described the feasts that these animals had. And it just was like so delicious sounding.
He got you with the food.
The food, the creams and the scones and the butter this and the honey that. And it was just like the most decadent spread you've ever heard.
It's ringing like a very faint bell, but I would have to reread them to really. But I remember liking them a lot. I will say.
Yeah, no.
And Harry Potter series is the same thing.
I was
right?
just about to bring that up, not to be too controversial. We're not going to comment on the author at all,
Yeah.
but the story itself, I think, is valuable for the exact same reason. Harry Potter. I mean, you would struggle to find a more pathetic character, a more downtrodden, pitiful character.
Yeah. Also an orphan,
beaten,
kind of alien
hated,
with powers.
Living in a shed under the stairs or whatever. You know what I mean? Like that is like the most pitiable character rising up through the ranks of magicdom or whatever.
It's called Hogwarts.
Hogwarts. Well, I mean, there's other places besides Hogwarts.
Yeah,
it's a big
sure.
world.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was a great series. I remember one of my favorite parts was when he discovers that he has a vault full of gold that his parents left him. It's like he won the lottery too. This kid is, oh my God, he's so lucky.
So my hope then is for this story, like in my wildest dreams, this story would have an impact on what's happening with immigration. We live in California. We live in Los Angeles, which is like the center point for how immigration policy is being enforced, which is pretty, in my opinion, horrific right now.
Yeah.
People are being disappeared and not being given due process, and
not
are
criminals either.
Yeah, these are not quote bad guys, criminal, whatever. There are a small handful that are.
Sure.
We were already going after them before Stephen Miller came along. But this is like fear and intimidation tactics. It's militaristic. It's really, really scary. And
it doesn't fix the problem at the border.
No. It lately, like just in the last week, I haven't seen. Luckily, thankfully, I haven't seen any more news about people being killed or, these bigger dramatic stories of these really bad things that are happening. I think there's like a lot of lawsuits happening now because this is all kind of softly illegal.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they're picking people up at their immigration hearings.
It's really evil.
That's so, I mean, isn't that what we want them to be doing, people?
I thought all the excuses that I hear from the middle is like, well, they just need to do it the right way. And I'm like, oh,
well,
they are. And
yeah.
then they're literally sending them to places where they're being treated like animals. I mean, we're doing things that are truly like really horrible. So like we're
doing things that Superman would like go in and break up alligator Alcatraz.
Yeah.
Superman would like laser beam that shit into the ground.
Yeah. And that's the connection I'm hoping that like I think it's only going to work for young people, but maybe someone older will have an extra think when they see it about what's right and wrong.
For me, I think what this really illustrates for me is how far our politics have shifted. That if you were to pluck the stories from the first Superman comics, some evil mine owner with unsafe working conditions, and Superman goes in there and fixes that, and that is considered woke today. How far have we regressed in that sense?
Well, do you think, too, with some of those comics that, like, some parents were kind of like, what is this bullshit?
Oh, for sure. But, like, I mean, in 1938, like, standing up for workers' rights was, like, the thing to do.
Yeah. I wish that was the thing to do now.
I know.
I wish it was now.
Bernie. I love you, Bernie.
I miss my union. Yeah.
It's good. Let's talk about call to action.
Let's do it.
The call to action today is going to be a little bit nerdy, and it's coming from a librarian, so just please bear with me. If you're listening to this, or if you have of the opinion, or know somebody that is of the opinion that Superman today, that movie, is woke, that it's just leftist propaganda, I would encourage you to just go and look at some of the early comics yourselves. Don't take my word for it. I don't know what I'm talking about half the time anyway. This time I do, I think. But go do the research yourself. Go to your local library. Look up some books on American comics. There's been tons written about them by scholars who've analyzed them. But you can also obviously read the comics themselves online and, compare the political messaging of the early comics with what's happening today, and see that it's not as Scott so aptly put it. The comics are not what's changed. What's changed is the person reading the comics. It's the lens through which we are reading these things that has so drastically shifted to make things like kindness and empathy be woke bullshit.
Yeah.
I'm proud to have lots of woke bullshit in my life.
Yeah. And, that's coming from two people who are not into a lot of like really far left extremist stuff. I think we have plenty of things we talk about that are not like, for example, all the stuff going on about the Sydney Sweeney commercial. To me,
oh my God,
that's like sort of ridiculous fodder that doesn't matter. We don't need to be talking about it. It's not important.
The only shit I've heard about that is people bitching about the left saying things about it. I've never seen anybody complaining that, it's
No, you've only seen people bitching about it on the left?
No, I've only seen people bitching about the left.
Oh, I see.
Like so like they're making much ado about nothing.
Yeah.
Like I've never seen anybody be upset at Sydney Sweeney has good genes. Oh my God, that's eugenics. It's like, okay, you found a tweet online.
Yeah,
one person that said it.
TikTok and a couple professors, and then suddenly it's the liberal media. I'm like, what media?
Jesus, dude.
Which politicians are upset? Like, tell me.
And since when has the left been so monolithic? If we were monolithic, Kamala Harris would be in the White House right now. We eat our own.
Yeah, we sure do. We sure do.
God. So yeah, Sydney Sweeney, I mean, I don't know what your politics are, but I just don't give a shit about your American Eagle ad.
And with that, thank you so much for listening.
Thank you.
Please like this episode, share it with someone that you love or someone that you don't love, especially this episode. That might be the better call. I don't know. Also hit that subscribe button, whether you're on YouTube or on something else. We would love to share every episode that we do with you. Thank you so much to our Superman comic book nerd friends, Scott Safranca and Trevor Winjet. I think I spelled it wrong on our notes. I'm so sorry.
Oh my God.
I know. I spelled it wrong.
Everybody spells it wrong.
I think it's because I took it from our love party list and you spelled it wrong on purpose.
Winglet?
Yeah. That's so funny. Sorry, Trevor.
That's an inside joke.
I'm so glad I didn't say it.
That's an inside joke.
I literally wrote the inside joke down. So, Trevor and Scott, thank you so much. We hope to have you on with us as guests someday. And then this episode was produced by yours truly, Carrie Prince and Doug Daniels, with editing and mixing by the lovely Mary Wen.
Thank you, Mary.
Thank you, Mary. Our theme song is Human Colors by Delicate Beats, and our cats' names are
Kiko and Yoshi.
That's right. All right. Until the next one. Bye, People Fuss.
Bye.